Yes, I'm living at a pace that kills. Man, that's rock and roll. And that is the end of the first verse of the song that I want to talk about today. And while at times I still probably can live at a pace that kills, not so much anymore. I certainly have in the past, both personally as well as professionally at work. But now I am doing more of living at a pace that may not necessarily kill, but it's a peace that I have been searching for since 1997, and I only found its fullness a couple years ago. Hello everybody, my name is Bishop Friesch, and I want to welcome you to my life through music, where I talk about the music that was either there or the music that describes particular events, feelings, people, or a combination of any of that in my life through that music. And the song that does that for the following memories is Running with the Devil by Van Halen, released in 1978. This song is full throttle, it's wide open, it's primal and raw. I mean, it's everything you need for rock and roll, a rock and roll song and a rock and roll band. I love this song just as much today as I did the very first time I heard it. This song to me is about living your freest life, living as natural as possible. In the song, it talks about all I've got I had to steal. I certainly don't advocate stealing, but and I understand where they're coming from, I think. But everything else, yeah. Till you find out who you are and what you want to be and what you want out of life, I think that's how you find it. Even the music aligns with the lyrics of this song, in my opinion. I mean, you've got this sound that quietly comes in from seemingly out of nowhere, and it gets louder and louder, and then you got the bass come in, and then you got Eddie Van Halen's guitar. I mean, and then you got the drums and the cymbals. And every time I think about Van Halen and drums, I think of cymbals and the perfect timing of the cymbals. Don't ask me why, but that's what comes to mind. And then you have the style, the delivery, the tone, and the attitude that you can only get from David Lee Roth. I mean, he's got to be one of the greatest frontmen of all time, in my opinion. I mean, he's a true showman. He was born for that. He really was. And when I heard this song, and when I eventually saw the cover on the tape that I bought, and I'll talk a little bit about that just in a few minutes, I was like, man, I saw the pictures of all the guys on there, and I looked at David Lee Roth, and I was like, and I'm being transparent. This is kind of what I'm trying to do here. And I wanted to be like him. I mean, that was the epitome of a rock star. And the voice, the sound, the screaming, all the stuff in the microphone, and just persona, it's rock and roll. And that at the age I was, at 12 years old, I think I was in 6th grade, if I was going to be a rock star, that's what I wanted to be. And so, as I was talking in the previous video or couple videos, I was bringing my boombox to school. I was playing the music that I had grown up and was accumulating through the radio, and it's what I was listening to. And I mentioned that I had a friend who also brought his boombox to school, and we were in at recess in the playground, and we had been in this corner, just kind of just being guys, talking and playing a song here and playing a song there. And finally the lunch bell rang. And so we all get up, we start walking towards the classrooms, getting ready for the next class and so on. And we're all walking in a group. There was like 4 of us. And he was in front of me talking with one of the other guys, and me and another guy were hanging back, just kind of talking and walking at the same time, just going to class in the grass. I remember it like yesterday. We were walking, and as we were walking, I was watching his boombox just kind of almost drag the ground, hitting the grass, because it was so big, and when you held it by the handle, it just kind of hung down, and it was just like banging off his calf, and he was just kind of almost dragging it along, because we were so short at that time. And he just kind of nonchalantly just kind of reached over with his free hand, and he reached over and he pushed play. And I was like, oh, what are we gonna hear? What's he gonna play? What's it gonna be? And all of a sudden, Runnin' with the Devil comes on, and I'd never heard it before. And I literally ran around the group that we were walking with, and I got in front of him, and I was like, who is this? And he's like, oh, this is a band called Van Halen. And when we got to the classroom, I was like, hey, let me see that tape for a second. And he handed it over to me. We kind of sat in these like 4 desks, in a group, and he was part of my group. And I reached over and I grabbed it, and I took it out of the case, and I'm looking at it, and it was kind of grimy and dirty because it was old. And I looked at it. I kind of got a mental picture of the tape itself, the cover, so I can memorize it and so I could find it later when I went to buy it. And I wrote down a couple songs on it or from it, and I gave it back to him. And so I went home that day, and I was like, just like last time with the AC/DC, I told my parents, like, hey, there's more music I want to get, and this is what I want, and I need to make more money. And so they set up some chores for me to do, some more work around the house and stuff. And once I was done, I would get, check this out, I would get the $7.99 that it cost to buy a tape at that time. And that's what they were going for. And I didn't get a record because I wanted the tape, because you could take the boombox, which had a tape deck in it, around with you. And I wanted to keep my music with me as much as possible. And so the next time my mom went shopping, all of her shopping she did at that particular time was from a store that she liked called Smitty's. And it was on Bell Road and Tatum here in Phoenix. And it wasn't the closest store, but it was her favorite store. And it also, the cool thing about it, and this is the best thing, is it had like a music section. And so the next time she went shopping, I was like, Mom, I got to go with you because I want to buy this. I got the money now. And so the day she went shopping, I went with her. And we went in her red wine-colored Buick Regal. It was a Regal, or was it a Skylark? I think it was a Regal with the white vinyl top. And it was cool. It was a cool car. It was fast. It had a big, huge engine. It was kind of like a boat, And we get there, and I go straight to the music section, and I'm looking, and I'm flipping through it. I find, the V's, and I find Van Halen, and I found it. And I grab it. And at that time, they had these, like, anti-theft devices on them, which was in the form of this plastic thing that went around the tape, but it continued, and it had, like, this foot-long thing. It was just plastic. And it kind of prevented you from kind of stealing it. And I remember taking it up to the checkout and buying it. And I took it home, and I get it home, and it's wrapped in this really tight plastic. You had to rip the plastic off, kind of like how CDs are or were, and they still have CDs. But it's wrapped in plastic. You got to rip the plastic off, and you can open it up, and it was just perfect, pristine white. And I remember looking at it, it was just untainted, and unlike my friends, and most cassettes at that time were just white or cream colored, and then later on, I think I remember seeing them in like different colors, but the typical cassette was white or cream color, and it had the songs stamped on the side, and you could see which side had what song and stuff. And so I brought it home, I pulled it out, and I noticed that it was just like perfect white, no grime, no stains, no dirt. And the most important thing about it, though, it was mine. It was mine, and I had the music, and I could take it with me anywhere I wanted. And so if you listen to this record, if you listen to this entire album, it's like, it's rock and roll. You've got, of course, Runnin' with the Devil. You got Ain't Talking About Love. You got Jamie's Crying. You Really Got Me. A cover from the Kinks, I think, were the original. I got to check that. But the Kinks did it, but I don't know if they were the originators. But it was a cover. And you've got Atomic Punk. You've got all these great. You got Eruption, for crying out loud. So it's like 38 minutes of. I got to check that. But it's like 38 minutes of just in your face rock and roll. 80s spirit rock and roll. I guess that's the best way that I can explain it. But it even has like Little Dreamer on that, and it's like this bluesy it's just a great record through and through. And I mentioned when I talked about Kiss, Do You Love Me, a while back. And I talked about Paul Stanley and how he was like making sounds into the microphone. And I made a comment about how it reminded me of another frontman who did that I would talk about later on. Well, now this is later on. And David Lee Roth was the person I was thinking about when I made that comment. And if you listen to particularly You Really Got Me, there's a section where he's breaking it down, and in the background he's doing all these sounds and all these yells and these screams and these calls and the breathing. It just took me back. And as I mentioned, Paul Stanley doing that, David Lee Roth just took it to the next level. And to me, that was kind of like really eye-opening that you could do this with the microphone, and it was really cool. It was really cool. But one more thing before I start wrapping this up. One more thing about Van Halen that is so unique, among all the unique things about them, their style, their music. But one thing I've got to mention is the backing vocals. The sound of the backing vocals. It's so unique that when you hear that, you know that is Van Halen. That is almost like a trademark. That is how they sound. And I picked that up at 12 years old. I picked that up, and it's still the same all the way through. Even when they changed singers. That backing vocal sound is the backing vocal sound of Van Halen. You can't miss it. And if you haven't had much experience, if you haven't listened to Van Halen, you'll know what I'm talking about. You really will. You really will. But again, going back to the lyrics, and aside from the stealing part, which I'm either living or have lived, with the spirit of this song, because I just kind of believe that's kind of how you approach life. Now, what is the devil in all this? it could be whatever you make it. It could be whatever you want it to be. It could be that entity down in hell. It could also be a vice. It could be a destructive behavior. It doesn't necessarily have to be evil. I think devil here could be kind of used as a placement word. That, you know, and that's kind of how I look at it. I mean, I listen to music a little bit differently. I don't really look at the surface of the lyrics. I try to go deeper and see, you know, if there is a deeper meaning, especially as it applies to me in my life. And to me, running with the devil in this could be, all this is could be something that just is. It could be something that just is. And, you know, I've got, and have, you know, a lot of devils that I've run with, still do. I'm human, you know. But what is the devil that you're running with? Do you still have them? And I kind of alluded to in the beginning of a piece that I was talking about. And when I really came to the realization that some of the devils that I had been running with had to go, and some of them that I still run with are okay to stay, that is part of finding the peace that I was talking about. And I you know, hope that, you know, if someone out there is looking at this and they're running with some devils that, you know, may not be the best to be running with, maybe they can go, you know, and only you can make that decision, just like I did, you know. Some of the devils, they had to go. Some of them, I still let them run with me, and that's okay. The next time that I come back, I plan on talking about the kitchen that I was living in, the house that I was living at the time. There were two life-changing things that happened in there, and I plan on talking about those. But as always, I'll put the link to this song down below so you can check it out. I really encourage you to check it out. If you've never heard it before, or if it's been a while, man, check it out, man. It'll bring back some memories, and you'll be right there. And also, I just want to say, as always, I do appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, and I want to thank you for spending a little bit of your time with me. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.